The wind whipped across the jagged peaks of the Hindu Kush Mountains, carrying a bite that cut through Sergeant Maya Rodriguez's thermal gear. Her team of 6 Special Forces operators moved with the precision of a well-oiled machine, their movements synchronized despite the treacherous terrain. This was supposed to be a routine high-altitude combat training exercise, a simulation of multi-terrain urban infiltration and mountain warfare tactics. Rodriguez's augmented reality contact lenses flickered with real-time data streams. Elevation markers, wind speed, team vitals, and terrain analysis created a complex holographic overlay that most militaries would have considered science fiction just a decade ago. But the United States Special Operations Command had been preparing for something bigger, something beyond conventional warfare. Sierra 3. Report, she subvocalized into her encrypted comm system. Clear on the eastern ridge, came the immediate response from Corporal Ahmed Khan, a former Pakistani Special Services Group operator now integrated into the Joint International Unit. What neither Rodriguez nor her team knew was that 238,900 kilometers above Earth, something was changing. The first Zarkak's long-range sensors had just completed their initial planetary scan, and aboard the massive command vessel, General Kovacs reviewed the initial intelligence reports with a mixture of bureaucratic disinterest and ancient imperial arrogance. The holographic display before Kovacs showed multiple layers of human infrastructure. Satellite networks crisscrossed the planet like a metallic nervous system. Military bases dotted every continent, their defensive capabilities far more complex than initial reconnaissance had suggested. Massive underground facilities, electromagnetic defense grids, and a communications network that seemed to anticipate potential global threats. Preliminary analysis, Sub-Commander, Kovacs barked to his junior officer, indicates a primitive species with rudimentary space capabilities. Projected conquest time, 72 standard cycles. The Sub-Commander, a younger Zarkaks with less battle-hardened cynicism, hesitated. General, the network complexity, the defensive preparations, they suggest nothing. Kovacs interrupted, his scaled hand dismissively waving away the concern. We have conquered species with 10 times their technological advancement. These humans will be another footnote in the Imperium's historical records. Back on Earth, Rodriguez's team was about to break for an emergency ration stop when the first anomalous readings appeared. Her augmented lenses suddenly erupted with warning signals, massive energy signatures entering the planet's upper atmosphere. Orbital tracking systems, which had been running constant simulations for just such an event, began automated response protocols. This is not a drill. A calm computer-generated voice echoed through multiple military communication channels worldwide. Unidentified massive objects detected. Global Defense Protocol Omega initiated. Within seconds, military installations across the planet began moving with a fluidity that would have shocked any outside observer. This was not panic. This was preparation. Decades of geopolitical tensions, proxy wars, and global security investments had created something unprecedented, a planet ready to defend itself. Rodriguez's hand instinctively moved to the experimental quantum pulse rifle slung across her back. Developed through a classified international research program, the weapon represented humanity's commitment to staying ahead of potential threats. It was more than a weapon. It was a statement of intent. Team, Defensive Formation Delta 9, she commanded. The mountain terrain would become their first line of defense. Aboard the Zarkak's command vessel, initial landing pods prepared for deployment. General Kovacs allowed himself a moment of supreme confidence. Billions of conquest cycles had taught the Imperium that resistance was futile, that technological superiority guaranteed victory. He was about to learn how wrong he could be. As the first Zarkak ships breached Earth's atmosphere, they were met not with fear, but with a precision and preparedness that would become legendary. The humans had been waiting, not just militarily, but culturally, technologically, psychologically. The invasion of Earth was about to become the Zarkax Imperium's most catastrophic miscalculation. New York City transformed into a battlefield unlike anything the Zarkax had ever encountered. The first wave of alien landing pods crashed into Manhattan's financial district, their advanced alloy exteriors promising technological superiority. What emerged was a nightmare of unexpected resistance. Dr. Marcus Chen, a 42-year-old MIT robotics engineer turned emergency response coordinator, watched from a hastily established command center beneath Grand Central Terminal. His fingers danced across a holographic interface, coordinating a defense that was part military operation, part urban survival strategy. Activate Urban Mesh Network, he commanded into his quantum-encrypted comlink. Instantly, the city itself became a weapon. Every traffic light, subway tunnel, electrical grid, and communication system transformed into an integrated defense network. Autonomous drones, originally designed for infrastructure maintenance, now swarmed from hidden charging stations, their AI systems reprogrammed for combat in milliseconds. On street level, Maria Gonzalez, a local community leader who had previously organized neighborhood watch programs, proved to be an unexpected tactical genius. She coordinated local residents, turning every building into a potential fortress. Construction workers wielded modified industrial equipment as impromptu defensive weapons. Welding torches became plasma cutters. Crane operators repositioned massive machinery to create urban barricades. The first Zarkax strike team materialized in the heart of Times Square, their energy weapons glowing with an otherworldly blue-green light. They expected terrified civilians. Instead, they found a killing zone meticulously prepared by humans who understood urban warfare at a molecular level. Target acquired. The lead Zarkax commander clicked in their native language, mandibles flexing with anticipation. The response came not from military channels, but from the city itself. Underground, the subway system became a labyrinth of tactical advantages. Emergency protocols developed during decades of counter-terrorism exercises now found their ultimate purpose. Sections of tunnel could be sealed instantaneously. Ventilation systems could be weaponized, pumping out electromagnetic pulse charges or specialized aerosol compounds designed to interfere with alien sensor systems. Corporal Jack Rice, a former NYPD tactical response officer, led a makeshift unit of first responders, construction workers, and local volunteers. They moved with a fluidity that confused the alien invaders. No rigid military formation, but an organic, adaptive strategy that turned the entire city into a living, breathing defensive organism. They're trying to establish a central control point at Rockefeller Center. Rice vocalized to Dr. Chen's command network. We're going to give them something else to think about. The attack wasn't just physical, it was psychological. Every block, every intersection became a trap. The Zarkax discovered that human urban infrastructure was not a weakness, but a complex ecosystem they could not easily comprehend. A Zarkax landing pod crashed through the glass facade of a skyscraper, expecting total destruction. Instead, the building's smart materials, designed to absorb and redistribute structural stress, minimized the damage. Automated fire suppression systems, originally created for civilian protection, now became weapons of defense. Dr. Chen's most brilliant innovation revealed itself. The urban mesh network wasn't just a defensive system, it was a learning algorithm. Each alien attack provided data, instantly distributed across the city's defensive network. Weaknesses were identified, countermeasures developed, and implemented in real time. They're treating this like a conventional invasion, Chen muttered to himself, watching the holographic displays. They don't understand that for humans, adaptation is survival. The Zarkax commander watched in mounting confusion as their tactical formations disintegrated. Human defenders didn't fight like any species they had encountered. There was no clear front line, no predictable military hierarchy. A construction worker with a modified nail gun could be as deadly as a trained soldier. A subway maintenance worker could redirect entire sections of underground infrastructure to cut off alien advances. By nightfall, The first wave of invasion had been transformed from a conquest into a brutal learning experience. The Zarkax had landed in what they thought was a conquered city, only to find themselves trapped in an urban nightmare of human ingenuity. General Krovax, monitoring from his command ship, received the first reports. They made no sense. Tactical formations destroyed. Communication networks compromised. An entire invasion force neutralized by a single city. The humans were not just fighting back. They were rewriting the very concept of warfare. The International Research Facility outside Geneva looked more like controlled chaos than a scientific laboratory. Dr. Elena Kovacs stood at the epicenter, her brilliant green eyes reflecting both exhaustion and an almost manic excitement. Scattered around her were components from 3 different captured Zarkax technological systems, each one a puzzle waiting to be dismantled and reimagined. "Bring me the quantum resonance analyzer," she called to Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, her lead quantum physics researcher. The facility represented humanity's most audacious response to the alien invasion, a global collaborative effort that transcended national boundaries, pooling the most brilliant minds from every continent. What the Zarkax didn't understand was that humans viewed technology not as a fixed system, but as a living, malleable concept. Where alien engineers saw rigid design protocols, human researchers saw infinite possibilities. A massive holographic display tracked the team's progress. Each component of the alien technology was being simultaneously analyzed by distributed computing networks spanning research centers from Tokyo to Sao Paulo. Machine learning algorithms developed specifically for this moment parsed through terabytes of data every second, looking for vulnerabilities, potential adaptations, unexpected interactions. Dr. Kovacs held up a Zarkax energy weapon, its sleek design a testament to centuries of alien technological development. To the Zarkax, it was a pinnacle of destructive engineering. To Dr. Kovacs, it was a canvas. "Look at the quantum entanglement matrix," she muttered to Nakamura. "They've developed a stabilization technique that's brilliant, but completely linear. They've eliminated adaptability for the sake of consistency." Her fingers moved across a holographic interface, bringing up complex quantum mechanical models. Where the Zarkax saw a weapon, Kovacs saw a communication system, an energy transfer mechanism, a potential defensive tool, all at the same time. In another section of the facility, a team of materials scientists worked on something even more revolutionary. They were developing a hybrid armor system that could dynamically respond to different types of energy signatures. Captured Zarkax weapon components were being systematically broken down, their fundamental principles understood, and then completely reimagined. "We're not just copying," Dr. Maria Rodriguez, the lead materials engineer, explained to a live global briefing. "We're translating their technology into a fundamentally human approach to problem solving." The first breakthrough came unexpectedly. A junior researcher named Ahmed Khan, no relation to the Special Forces operator from the Mountain team, noticed an unusual harmonic frequency in the Zarkax energy weapons power distribution system. What seemed like a minor engineering detail became a massive vulnerability. Within hours, a prototype device emerged. It looked nothing like the original Zarkax weapon. Where their technology was sleek and uniform, this new human hybrid was a complex, almost organic-looking system. Multiple subsystems could redirect, absorb, or neutralize different energy signatures. General William Chen, observing from the United States Space Command, could barely believe the reports streaming in. "They've turned an alien weapon into something completely new in less than 48 hours, he muttered to his second-in-command. Back in the research facility, Dr. Kovacs was experiencing something close to scientific euphoria. Each solved puzzle revealed another layer of possibility. The Zarkax had spent millennia perfecting their technological systems, believing them to be the ultimate expression of engineering. They had no concept of the human capacity for radical reimagination. A quantum communication burst arrived from a naval research station in the Pacific. Another team had discovered a way to use the aliens' faster-than-light communication protocols as a potential defensive network. What was meant to be a weapon of invasion could now be transformed into a planetary shield. It's not about the technology, Dr. Kovacs explained to her team. It's about the perspective. The Zarkax see technology as a finished product. We see it as a conversation. By the end of the week, multiple prototypes were being prepared for field testing. Experimental defense systems that could adapt in real time. Weapons that could transform their own operational parameters mid-conflict. Communication networks that could become defensive barriers. The facility hummed with an energy that was part scientific discovery, part human defiance. They weren't just fighting an invasion. They were rewriting the fundamental understanding of technological adaptation. General Kovacs, receiving the initial intelligence reports, felt something he had not experienced in centuries of military conquest. For the first time, the Zarkax Imperium was truly afraid. Jack Martinez wasn't a soldier in the traditional sense. His background in psychological operations had prepared him for a war that was fought as much in the mind as on any battlefield. The makeshift interrogation center, established in a converted research facility outside of Denver, was unlike any detention center in human history. 3 captured Zarkax prisoners sat in isolation chambers designed not for punishment, but for systematic psychological engagement. Martinez understood something fundamental about intelligence gathering that the aliens could not comprehend. Information was an ecosystem, not a resource to be extracted. Begin Protocol Sigma, he subvocalized to his team of linguists, psychologists, and communication specialists. The first breakthrough came from Dr. Aisha Rahman, a linguistic anthropologist who had spent her career studying communication patterns in extreme social systems. The Zarkax language wasn't just a method of communication. It was a complex hierarchical structure that reflected their entire societal organization. They don't just speak, Dr. Rahman explained during a secured briefing. Their language is a manifestation of their social and military hierarchy. Every verbal interaction is a negotiation of status. Martinez watched as the first Zarkax prisoner began to interact with a carefully constructed communication interface. It wasn't an interrogation. It was a dance of psychological manipulation so subtle that the alien didn't realize it was happening. The prisoners had been captured during the New York City invasion, their landing pod disabled by the Urban Defense Network. What made them unique was their survival. Most Zarkax soldiers were programmed to self-terminate rather than be captured. These 3 represented an anomaly, and Martinez intended to understand why. Each interaction was a carefully choreographed psychological experiment. The isolation chambers were designed with adaptive environmental controls that subtly manipulated sensory input. Colors shifted imperceptibly. Temperature and humidity fluctuated in patterns that would trigger specific neurological responses. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a neuroscientist specializing in cross-species cognitive patterns, monitored the prisoners' neurological responses. They're experiencing something they've never encountered, she noted. Complete uncertainty. In the Zarkax military structure, uncertainty was a form of death. Their entire civilization was built on predictability, hierarchical control, and absolute certainty of purpose. Humans represented the ultimate psychological threat, a species that thrived on uncertainty, that saw chaos as an opportunity for innovation. The first significant breakthrough came unexpectedly. One of the prisoners, designated as Subject Cree 7, began to exhibit signs of what could only be described as curiosity. The Zarkax had no equivalent concept in their language. Curiosity was a weakness, a deviation from established protocols. Martinez and his team had created an environment that systematically dismantled everything the Zarkax understood about psychological warfare. Where the aliens expected torture, they found intellectual engagement. Where they anticipated resistance, they encountered adaptive communication. A series of carefully constructed scenarios began to reveal critical information about Zarkax military structure. Each prisoner was placed in a different psychological environment, their interactions monitored and cross-referenced. The goal wasn't just to extract information, it was to understand the fundamental cognitive processes of an alien species. They're hierarchical to the point of psychological brittleness, Dr. Rahman observed. Their entire societal structure is so rigid that any deviation becomes a form of existential threat. The most surprising weapon in this psychological arsenal was empathy, a concept the Zarkax had no equivalent for in their language or social structure. Martinez's team began to demonstrate something completely alien to the prisoners: individual value that wasn't tied to military utility. Small gestures became psychological warfare. A cup of water offered without expectation. A conversation that didn't demand information. Environmental stimuli that suggested safety instead of threat. Subject Cree 7 began to break first, not through torture or traditional interrogation, but through a systematic dismantling of everything the subject understood about interaction, hierarchy, and purpose. By the end of the first week, the prisoners were providing more information through what they didn't say than through direct communication. Their silences became volumes of intelligence. Their micro-expressions became maps of an entire alien civilization. General Krovax, reviewing the initial psychological assessment reports, felt something he had not experienced in centuries of military conquest: uncertainty. The humans were not just fighting a physical war. They were waging a battle that attacked the very foundations of Zarkak's understanding of conflict, communication, and existence. The United Nations Emergency Chamber had never seen anything like this moment. What began as a potential source of division became humanity's most remarkable display of unity. Ambassador Zara Okoro from Nigeria stood at the center of a holographic display that wrapped around the circular chamber like a living, breathing map of global defense. To her left, the Russian representative, Dr. Mikhail Volkov, manipulated complex strategic projections. To her right, General Lai Wei from China coordinated global communication networks with a precision that would have been impossible just months earlier. "We are no longer talking about national defense," Okoro began, her voice cutting through the tension. "We are discussing planetary survival." The holographic display told a story of unprecedented collaboration. Military resources from every continent were being redistributed with a speed and efficiency that defied traditional geopolitical boundaries. American satellite networks interfaced with European early warning systems. Japanese robotics technology merged with Brazilian adaptive infrastructure designs. Russian aerospace engineering collaborated with Indian quantum communication networks. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had been instrumental in the technological adaptation efforts, presented a comprehensive briefing. Her presentation wasn't just a military strategy. It was a blueprint for planetary defense that transformed every human capability into a potential weapon of resistance. "Our strength is not in our individual capabilities," she explained, "but in our ability to create something greater than the sum of our parts." The chamber fell silent as she demonstrated how different cultural approaches could be integrated into a unified defense strategy. African community organizational techniques merged with North American technological innovation. European diplomatic strategies combined with Asian adaptive manufacturing capabilities. General William Chin from the United States Space Command presented a breakthrough that exemplified this new approach. A global defense network that wasn't hierarchical, but distributed, each node capable of independent action while remaining part of the larger system. "The Zarkax expect a centralized command structure," Chen explained. "We're giving them something they cannot comprehend, a defense network that thinks like an ecosystem." In the streets of Mumbai, community leaders organized local defense networks that could rapidly mobilize civilian infrastructure. In the mountains of Peru, indigenous communities shared survival techniques that would prove crucial in adaptive warfare. Remote Pacific Island nations became critical communication relay points, their isolation transforming into a strategic advantage. The most unexpected heroes emerged from seemingly unlikely places. A group of Venezuelan software engineers developed an adaptive communication algorithm that could interface between military systems from different countries in real time. A team of Kenyan agricultural scientists adapted crop management technologies into early warning detection systems. Dr. Aisha Rahman, the linguistic anthropologist, explained the deeper significance. For the first time in human history, we are not defining ourselves by our differences, but by our collective potential. The economic systems of the world underwent a transformation. Stock markets, previously driven by competition, now became platforms for resource allocation and strategic collaboration. Companies that had been competitors now shared research, technology, and resources with a single goal in mind. Educational institutions worldwide suspended normal operations. Universities became research centers for planetary defense. Students from every discipline were recruited into specialized teams. A marine biology researcher in Australia might find her work critical to understanding alien communication patterns. A computer science student in Kenya could develop a breakthrough in adaptive networking. Satellite imagery showed something unprecedented. Military bases from different countries were not just sharing information. They were physically restructuring to create integrated defense zones. A base in South Korea could seamlessly communicate and coordinate with a facility in Brazil, as if national boundaries had become meaningless. The Zarkax had expected to find a fractured, competitive species. Instead, they encountered a planetary organism that could rapidly reorganize, adapt, and respond with a complexity that defied their understanding of collective action. General Krovax, reviewing the intelligence reports, realized something fundamental had changed. This was not just a military response. This was a fundamental reimagining of what it meant to be a collective species. As the United Nations Emergency Chamber concluded its session, Ambassador Okoro's final words resonated through the global communication networks. We are not just defending our planet. We are defining our future. The modified Zarkax cruiser hung in the inky blackness of space, its hull now a testament to human ingenuity. Sergeant Maya Rodriguez sat in the modified command chair, her augmented neural interface dancing with streams of data that would have overwhelmed any standard human communication system. Quantum encryption stabilized. Lieutenant Ahmed Khan reported from the navigation console. The ship itself was a paradox. Stolen Zarkax technology transformed into something the original designers would never recognize. Their mission was audacious beyond comprehension. A small team would penetrate the heart of Zarkax communication and command infrastructure, using the aliens' own systems against them. What the Zarkax saw as an impenetrable network of faster-than-light communication channels, humans saw as an exploitable ecosystem of information. Dr. Elena Kovacs, who had been instrumental in modifying the ship's systems, monitored a holographic display that looked more like a living, breathing organism than a standard tactical interface. Their communication network is a hierarchical tree, she explained to Rodriguez. But trees have vulnerabilities. Every branch can become a point of infection. The first phase of the attack was psychological. Months of intelligence gathering from the captured Zarkax prisoners had revealed critical weaknesses in their communication protocols. Where the aliens saw a perfect, impenetrable system, humans saw a complex but fundamentally flawed network of information exchange. Initiating quantum resonance interference. Khan subvocalized. Across multiple Zarkax communication relays, something impossible began to happen. Messages became subtly distorted. Command structures found themselves receiving conflicting information. The perfect, hierarchical information network started to develop microscopic inconsistencies that would grow like a cancer. Rodriguez understood the true weapon wasn't technology, it was uncertainty. A series of carefully crafted communication packets began to infiltrate the Zarkax systems. Each packet was a work of art, designed to exploit the fundamental cognitive limitations of the alien communication structure. Where the Zarkax expected absolute certainty, they would receive calculated ambiguity. Target the tertiary communication hub in the Epsilon quadrant, Dr. Kovacs instructed, her fingers moving across the holographic interface with the precision of a concert pianist. The modified ship moved with a fluidity that defied traditional space combat doctrine. It wasn't fighting. It was infiltrating. adapting, becoming part of the very system it was attacking. Lieutenant Area Chen, their communications specialist, had spent months developing a language algorithm that could introduce microscopic errors into the Zarkak's communication network. These weren't random disruptions, but precisely calculated interventions that would slowly erode the aliens' ability to coordinate. We're not just breaking their communication, Chen explained earlier during mission preparation. We're introducing entropy into a system that cannot tolerate uncertainty. The first signs of success came unexpectedly. Zarkak's military units began receiving conflicting orders. Defensive positions became confused. Supply lines started to fragment. Rodriguez watched the holographic display with a mixture of scientific fascination and military precision. This wasn't conventional warfare. This was a form of systemic infection that attacked the very foundations of the Zarkak's military structure. Quantum entanglement breach successful, Khan reported. We're now inside their primary communication network. What followed was less a battle and more a systematic dismantling. The humans weren't destroying the Zarkak's communication infrastructure. They were reprogramming it, turning their most advanced technological achievement into a weapon of their own destruction. Backup communication channels that should have been instantaneous now became unreliable. Mission-critical information became subtly distorted. The perfect hierarchical system began to develop microscopic inconsistencies that would grow exponentially. General Kovacs, monitoring from the primary command vessel, began to experience something unprecedented in his centuries of military conquest. Doubt. As Rodriguez's team completed their mission, they had done more than attack a communication network. They had introduced a fundamental concept that the Zarkak civilization had never encountered: chaos as a strategic advantage. The counteroffensive had begun, and the Zarkaks would never see it coming. The primary Zarkak's command vessel hung in space like a massive obsidian blade, its hull a testament to millennia of technological refinement. Inside, General Kovacs watched the disintegration of everything he had ever known. The boarding began with a whisper, not a bang. Sergeant Maya Rodriguez led a team that was less a military unit and more a living weapon of human innovation. Dr. Elena Kovacs' technological adaptations, Jack Martinez's psychological warfare insights, and a collective preparation of humanity's best minds converged in this moment. Their entry point was impossible: a quantum-phased breach that defied the ship's most advanced defensive protocols. Where the Zarkaks expected massive weapon signatures, they encountered something far more terrifying: a silent, adaptive infiltration that rewrote the very rules of combat. Initiating Protocol Omega, Rodriguez subvocalized, her neural interface dancing with layers of tactical information that would have overwhelmed any standard human communication system. The ship's internal systems began to betray themselves. Doors that should have been impenetrable became fluid. Defensive barriers transformed into conduits. The very architecture of Zarkak's technological supremacy became a weapon against itself. Lieutenant Ahmed Khan managed the technological infiltration, his fingers moving across interfaces that blended captured alien technology with human adaptive systems. We're not just breaching their defenses, he explained to Rodriguez. We're rewriting their fundamental understanding of security. Each corridor became a psychological battlefield. Holographic projections created impossible geometries. Sound waves manipulated alien sensory inputs. The humans moved not as invaders, but as a living, adaptive organism that could reshape itself to any challenge. Dr. Martinez's psychological warfare reached its pinnacle. The Zarkaks encountered communication patterns that defied their hierarchical understanding. Messages became weapons. Uncertainty became a tactical advantage. They've built a civilization on the premise of absolute control, Martinez had explained during mission preparation. We're going to show them the power of embracing chaos. General Kovacs watched in mounting horror as his most advanced defensive systems became vulnerabilities. Automated defense protocols began to conflict with each other. Communication channels twisted into recursive loops of misinformation. The confrontation was less a battle and more a systematic deconstruction of an entire civilization's understanding of conflict. Area Chen, the team's communication specialist, unleashed a linguistic virus that was part technology, part psychological warfare. Zarkak's communication systems began to experience what could only be described as a cognitive breakdown. Messages became paradoxes. Command structures dissolved into recursive uncertainty. Rodriguez moved through the ship like a quantum ghost, her augmented systems allowing her to predict and manipulate alien defensive responses before they could fully form. Each movement was a calculated disruption, each decision a weapon more powerful than any physical armament. The ship's central command chamber became the epicenter of the confrontation. General Krovax, surrounded by the most advanced technological defenses in the known galaxy, found himself facing something he could not comprehend. Humans, not as a military force, but as a fundamental force of adaptation and possibility. You cannot understand. Krovax clicked in the Zarkak's language, the perfection of our civilization. Rodriguez's response came not with words, but with a demonstration. The ship's own systems began to fold in on themselves. Defensive protocols became offensive vulnerabilities. The most advanced technological achievement in Zarkak's history became a massive, complex trap. Dr. Kovacs had prepared for this moment. The technological infiltration was a masterpiece of adaptive engineering. Each system was not just breached but transformed, rewritten to serve a purpose its original designers could never have imagined. The final moments were a symphony of technological and psychological warfare. The Zarkak's command vessel, a symbol of millennia of technological supremacy, began to disintegrate not from external attack, but from an internal transformation so complete, so fundamental, that it rewrote the very concept of conflict. General Krovax experienced something unprecedented in his centuries of military conquest. Absolute, total defeat. Not through superior firepower, but through a fundamental reimagining of what conflict could mean. Humanity had done more than win a battle. They had changed the universe's understanding of possibility. The Global Reconstruction Summit convened in what was once the United Nations headquarters in New York, now a monument to human resilience. The building, partially destroyed during the invasion, had been transformed into a living symbol of humanity's capacity for renewal. General William Chen stood before a holographic display that showed the extent of global transformation. The invasion had not destroyed humanity. It had accelerated its evolution. "We are not the same species we were 6 months ago," he began, his voice carrying the weight of unprecedented historical significance. General Krovax sat in a specialized containment chamber, the first high-ranking alien prisoner in human history. Unlike traditional interrogations, this was a systematic process of understanding, a diplomatic and scientific endeavor that would reshape humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. Dr. Aisha Rahman led the xenolinguistic team responsible for communication. "This is not about punishment," she explained during a global broadcast. "This is about understanding." The technological advancements were staggering. Every sector of human society had been transformed. Educational systems were being completely redesigned to emphasize adaptability, cross-cultural collaboration, and innovative thinking. Universities that once competed now formed global research networks that made previous scientific collaboration look primitive by comparison. In orbit, the first truly global space defense network took shape. It was not a military installation, but a collaborative research platform that integrated technologies from every continent. Satellites developed by teams in Lagos worked seamlessly with communication systems designed in Tokyo. Defensive technologies from Tel Aviv interfaced with quantum communication networks from Mumbai. Sergeant Maya Rodriguez, now leading a new form of global defense initiative, understood the deeper significance. "We didn't just defend our planet," she told a group of young recruits. "We redefined what it means to be a species." The economic systems underwent a radical transformation. Global resources were being redistributed with an efficiency that previous economic models could never have imagined. Artificial intelligence systems, developed during the conflict, now helped manage global resources with unprecedented precision. Dr. Elena Kovacs presented a breakthrough that would have been unimaginable before the invasion. The comprehensive planetary defense system that was less a military installation and more a living, adaptive organism. Each component could learn, adapt, and respond to potential threats in real time. The most profound changes happened in human consciousness. The invasion had eliminated previous divisions. National boundaries became increasingly meaningless. A new global identity emerged, not through forced unification, but through a shared experience of survival and collective achievement. Jack Martinez, now leading a global psychological research initiative, explained the deeper transformation. "We discovered something about ourselves," he said during a global symposium. "Conflict is not about destruction. It's about understanding." The xenolinguistic research team made breakthrough after breakthrough. General Kovacs, initially resistant, became a crucial source of information. The humans approached him not as a prisoner, but as a bridge to understanding an entirely different civilization. "Your species does not conquer," Kovacs finally admitted during one of their extensive conversations. "You transform." Educational systems worldwide were being rebuilt. Curricula now emphasized adaptability, cross-cultural communication, and innovative problem-solving. Schools in rural Kenya shared research platforms with institutions in Silicon Valley. A student in Sao Paulo could collaborate in real time with researchers in Seoul. The first interstellar research vessels were being constructed, not as military vessels, but as platforms of exploration and understanding. They incorporated technologies from every continent, representing a truly global approach to space exploration. Dr. Maria Rodriguez, leading the Global Technological Integration Team, summarized the transformation. "We are not returning to normal. We are creating something entirely new." As the summit concluded, a final holographic transmission showed something unprecedented. Representatives from every continent standing together, not as separate nations, but as a single, unified species. General William Chen's closing words resonated across global communication networks. "The Zarkaks came to conquer. Instead, they gave us the greatest gift possible, the understanding of our true potential."